I'm at the Institute of Education, University College London, which is called UCL. And if you can see this photo of 1902, that was, it used to be a teacher training college and started as a teacher training college in 1902. That's the photo there. And our Institute of Education was merged with UCL in 2014. So we are a kind of education faculty at UCL now. So I'm coming from education perspectives, taking disaster preparedness as learning. But today I want to look at Kuroshio Town's case again. And I want to start by explaining why I titled this talk Revisiting. And that is because this study was done based on the fieldwork in March 2017. And back then I was very much helped by Yamori Lab, particularly Sugiyama-san's cooperation. Without their help, I couldn't have done this study. And then I presented at the 8th iDream conference in Reykjavik, I think, in which I met Shubo for the first time, and we had a heated discussion. And I published the paper in Compare in 2018 after so many revisions. The paper is on the right-hand side, so it's a published paper. But I don't think it is a good paper. Why? Because it is too complicated. I put too many items in one paper, so it's too complex. And also, since then, I have become more aware of integrated disaster management, disaster risk management perspectives, Sogo Bosai perspectives. So I thought it was worth revising this paper and then represent to the audience and share my ideas with you. And I am very much aware in the audience, there are a lot of experts, lots of colleagues who've been to Kuroshio Town and studied their disaster risk reduction activities. And therefore, please don't hesitate to just tell me, Kaori, you are telling rubbish, that's not the right interpretation or anything. I'm very open to your critiques and new information. And so I hope this is going to be a very open discussion for everyone. So yes, so that's what I wanted to do today, simplify and refine the argument and then link it with the integrated disaster risk management. So the talk, I hope, will be within 45 minutes. I'm going to revise all of society engagement, which is a kind of catchphrase in the Sendai Framework 2015-30. And next, I will draw on a case of the disaster risk management for Nankai Trough, earthquake and tsunami in Kuroshio Town, with a focus on the notion of a connector. And I'm going to then explain their activities using whole system thinking. I'm applying social ecological system theory. And then I will discuss the implication of connectors for the Sogo Bosai. That's the plan today. So all of society engagement is one of the guiding principles in the Sendai framework, and which was currently called United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, UNDRR's remit, and was introduced in the framework. And we were advised to make actions on these 4 areas in particular. So understanding disaster risk and strengthening disaster risk governance, investing in disaster risk reduction, and enhancing disaster preparedness. But all of society engagement wasn't clearly defined, and you could kind of understand what it would mean, but it wasn't clearly defined, and the interpretation was really left to practitioners and policymakers, experts. So I'm thinking maybe all of society engagement are related to all of these concepts that we hear a lot in our field of Sogo Bosai, integrated disaster risk management. So stakeholder engagement, combining top-down and bottom-up approaches, community-based disaster risk reduction, co-production, co-construction, co-creation. Those are really buzzwords now. Participatory approaches. And in Japan's case, Kojo, Jijo, Kyojo, the framework we have. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. And some are used as a synonym of all of society engagement. And perhaps in terms of integrated disaster risk management, maybe all of society engagement is one form of Sogo Bosai, or are they completely the same? That I don't have an answer, but I think they are closely related. And since the Sendai framework, a number of studies have been undertaken in the areas of these family concepts. And we should celebrate how much we have done, how much colleagues have done, and we have advanced an understanding of all of society engagement in many various forms. But I think there's still a challenge. And taking Kojo, Jijo, Kyojo as an example, let me explain. So for those who are not familiar with these three concepts, this is the kind of tripartite framework the Japanese government and also some experts emphasize in disaster risk management. So Kojo is public help, therefore controlled by the central and municipal governments. And Jijo is self-help, it's done by ourselves. And Kyojo is collaborative help undertaken in communities. So these three need to be coexist in disaster risk reduction. And I believe a lot has been already done. But I haven't come across enough material studies that discuss how to connect these three areas. And this is kind of my additional bit, but in recent years, I've been thinking maybe what, for example, Yama Sensei refers to as intermediate intellectual or bridging knowledge. I overheard this, so correct me if I got it wrong, but I think he's meaning similar things. Or Okada Sensei's communicative space, he also uses communicative place. These conceptions might be something to do with this connecting ideas. So this is the updated version of my thinking so far. So let's look at the case of Kuroshio Town. So going back to 2017, it was already known for its very proactive approach to disaster risk management. And I was in one of the Chikubosai conferences, and some officials were there to present their practice, and I was really intrigued and wanted to go there and talk to people there. So I asked Yamori Sensei's if I could visit their field and to find out stakeholders' perceptions and experiences around their disaster risk reduction activities. So my methods would be to interview stakeholders and observe their activities. So it was a very small experimental study to just see what is happening there with my own eyes. So for those who don't know about Kuroshio Town, which I believe is very rare now in the Sogo Bosai seminar, but just let me recap. So it is a very small town and with a declining population. Back then in 2017, there were 12,000 population, but it's now gone down to 10,700. And the important factor is 45% of the population is aged 65 or over. So nearly 1 in 2. And its geography is very complex. We tend to think it's Shikoku as a kind of sea line coastal communities, but it's actually quite mountainous as well. And the main industry being fishery and agriculture. And it has a long, tsunami history, and it's Nankai Trough earthquake happening every 90 to 150 years. The last one being 1946, bringing 4 to 6 meter tsunami and a lot of victims. Therefore, there had already been a certain degree of tsunami preparedness before the government 2012 revised announcement. So let me talk about it a little bit more in depth. The 2012 31st of March, the Central Disaster Management Council made a revision of the forthcoming large-scale hazards. And Nankai Trough earthquake was announced, and it could be as big as the seismic intensity of 7. And within 2 minutes, tsunami as high as 34.4 meters could reach Kuroshio Town. An 80% probability for this to happen within the coming 30 years. So it's been nearly 10 years, 9 years. So we only have 20 years for this to happen for 80% probability. And the number of fatalities in Kuroshio Town could be as much as 2,300, of which 91% could be of the tsunami victims. So this was called 3.11 shock in Kuroshio Town. And of course, it was received with despair and a sense of helpless, hopeless. There was a very gloomy atmosphere of filled in the town, and this sense of giving up. So what the Kuroshio Town town hall officials did was to convince the population to never give up. So this became their mantra, their slogan, never give up. And then to promise 0 victims. So that's how they kind of embarked on this very harsh situation, to facing this situation. Since they have undertaken a number of measures, and they have received extra funding from the central government, and a lot of experts came to co-produce their DRR measures. And one on the right is one of the 9 hazard maps. And as you can see, it includes the tsunami travel times and also a list of evacuation centers. So all of these were made available very quickly. As well, the famous tsunami towers were built. And it was interesting to discover that unlike Tohoku region, Kochi Prefecture's choice was towers rather than dikes, because they wanted to preserve the sea coastal line. So this tower is the highest in Japan, that of 22 meters. And I was there when it was just built. They are, of course, have a number of evacuation drills. They created this type of regional disaster risk management plans. And one on the bottom right, these Teen Food, you might know about their interesting project, public-private cooperation of this new stockpile industry. The government supported, municipal government supported this business, generating employment and also making it sustainable economy. That I thought was also very interesting idea. So amongst all these measures, I would like to focus on two specific ones. And the first one is staff in charge system in the Kuroshio Town Hall. And this is about every town official to have a responsibility of one or more communities to support their DRR, disaster risk reduction measures. So this is on top of their original responsibility. So for example, if you are in the Department of Finance, so you have the duties of looking after the town's financial whatever during the daytime, and in your spare time, you have this staff in charge system duty to look after one or two, three communities to find out and develop their needs together. So every single official has been allocated communities. And what this has allowed, it has allowed many, but one very important thing was they created this individual tsunami evacuation cars. And this is to decide evacuation routes of individual residents. So you can see in the photos, those paper files, they are for individual residents in the town. So official goes out to communities, goes out to residents' houses, discuss and allocate the evacuation routes, decide evacuation routes together. So, and they also contributed to the maintenance of evacuation routes. So these are more kind of hard measures, decision-making, and development of storages, lightnings, and signs. The staff went into communities and understanding their needs, risks, and to make decisions together. So that was the staff in charge system. And some of the kind of testimonies from my interviews, staff are highly motivated. And these are some of the quotes from town officials. Staff members' awareness is quite high, but that is no surprise. The town's whole existence is endangered because of that 3.11 shock. And another one, I wasn't sure at the beginning, but now it isn't a burden to me at all. We all have strong feelings, omoi, towards our community. So this was a rather senior official telling me this. And another one, again, saying, I literally know everybody in this community. I even know which part of the house one sleeps. And this, I think, is incredible. Therefore, it shows that they are really going into the residences, and they really get to know each other. And also, this is from a resident. We can say anything we want to our leader and the staff in charge. We don't do this because we are told by the top. So they are developing this motivation agency that they are, even though after 3.11 shock, they lost all hope, they are kind of rebuilding their confidence, their motivation that they want to evacuate. And then this one's really heartwarming. Town official saying, I feel I am nurtured by this community that I am in charge. This is a both-way relationship. So there is this relationships emerging and developing, and I think that is a very powerful element in this staff in charge system. And the other measures of focus is the collaborative practice methodology of Yamori Lab. As many of you probably know, that their emphasis is on agency and engagement. So rather than experts going into communities and telling them what to do or instruct them how to develop the disaster risk reduction measures, they want to respect community members, agency, should I say, and they want to enhance engagement, kanyose. For that, this is their methodology, their methods tend to be action research and more ethnographic. And this is called Deep Outreach by Yamori Sensei and Miyamoto Sensei, if I remember correctly. And this, I have never come across this kind of methodology. And it is really energy consuming, time consuming, and I believe it's costing too. But with this type of involvement in communities, I think that allowed co-production and the development of trust relationships, because researchers go out to the field very, very regularly, and I believe they still do, they're still involved. And with such methodology, they undertook a number of activities, and Crossroads is a famous tool to get communities involved, and they developed, they encourage residents to have this strengthen the furniture in case of the quakes, and the famous smartphone application Nigetore is on the right, and all of these are based on this collaborative practice methodology. And I'm there in the photo of the middle bottom. This is after I interviewed this community in Kumanoura. As you can see, this is a very aging small community, and this was in an evacuation center, which had been moved to a higher ground. Originally, it was in a lot lower ground, but because of the 2012 announcement, it would be at risk. So they moved the evacuation center to a higher ground. At the same time, this facility was used as a community center. So the local people come here on a monthly basis, And they discuss on this day I visited, they were discussing this, what to put into the stockpile storage. And also they do have some kind of craft activities, or they have lunch together. So they spend some time, or they have health check as well, that I thought was very interesting. And they spend some time together. So this kind of very rural area, staff in charge from the town was there, and also researcher was there too. So they are very much engaged in a day-to-day disaster risk reduction activities. So again, some of the comments from the interviewees. So one resident talks about the researcher is like a next chapter. I feel him like part of my family. So because they are there so regularly, they spend time together, they develop this kind of closeness and relationship. It wasn't like that from the beginning, I believe, but over the time, this was possible. And also you can see change in the resident side as well. As I said, this community center was moved from a lower ground to higher ground. So that is actually for some residents in this Kumanora community is an evacuation practice, because they have to walk from their houses to the evacuation center, which could be a kind of climbing slope. So one says we have familiarized ourselves with the new evacuation routes. So they're not doing consciously evacuation drills, but they are actually practicing evacuations. And another says, first, we need to be responsible for our own safety, and then we look after others. So these are the communities that had once given up evacuating, but over the years with these collaborative efforts, some residents were showing some changes. So I just wanted to say, to stop here and say, pause, that I don't want to kind of idealize the case of Kuroshio Town. I'm aware that I've only seen the, how do you call it, tip of the iceberg, and maybe I'm just seeing the beautiful side of the story. And I'm aware that not everybody is happy, and there are loads of difficult situations, and not all staff members are, for example, happy with the staff in charge system. I heard this as well. But I think it's my purpose today is not to kind of giving this as the good practice, let alone best practice. But my point is even what comes after this. So let me think about how to explain this in a slightly academic way or more innovative way. And I want to apply whole system thinking, that is social ecological system theory. So it is originally education kind of theory developed by Prof. Brenner. He's a psychologist, in explaining child development. So the individual in the center is a child, and how child develops him or herself is with the relationship with all these different systems. So the child in the middle, and then immediate relationships could be parents, teachers, schools, neighbors, friends, right? And then there are meso system, and that is that is the level that enables interactions amongst people in microsystem. I have to come back to this because this is the level I want to focus on. And then exosystem is how schools are governed, organized, so about the education system, policies and laws. And macro system is more about belief and ideology. So, you know, we are governed by the some political policy makers, so politics or ideology. And the outer system is chrono system, which is which indicates environmental events and conditions transitions. So all of these are kind of interacting and influencing child development. So this is original theory by Prof and Brenner. And this is called nested structure. And I thought we probably would be able to explain our DRR structure using this theory. So think of the Kuroshio Town again. So community members are in the middle. And then microsystem, so who they engage directly, they could be town hall officials. That's the Jishubo members, neighbors basically, or in their case, researchers. And meso system, let me come back to this, but let's go to exosystem first. So that's the policy and laws of disaster risk management. And macro system is a wider kind of belief system. I put all of society engaged discourse, or kind of ideas spreading at the moment in time. And wider chrono system is the fact that Nankai trough, earthquake, and tsunami would happen within now 20 years, or the climate change and that kind of wider picture there. So this meso system, coming back to this meso system, this is the system that enables interactions, interrelationships, communication, through communication. So between community members and people around them and the policy world, that needs to be connected. And I would suggest what we've just seen, staff in charge system, or the collaborative practice research methodology are actually an enablers within meso system that actualizes communication and therefore interactions and relations, develops relationships. I'm putting community disaster management plan, but I skipped it today for the seminar. But in the paper, it's been included, but let's leave it for now. So the point here is the importance of these intermediary connectors that connect community members and people around them, and then the policy world, and then the outer world. And my point is these two that we focus today are doing, having that role. And just to look at the same point using previous this Kojo Jujo Kyojo framework, it could be suggested that staff in charge system and collaborative practice methodology could be connecting these rather independent efforts. So at the moment, so some kind of glue is needed in these efforts. So this is my last slide and my conclusion. Let's link this to integrated disaster risk management. Our topic, Sogo Bosai. Returning to these two scholars' concepts, intermediate intellectual bridging knowledge, I think, and communicative space, I believe we are kind of referring to the same direction. We are looking at same direction, how to glue these, how to integrate, how to glue these three spheres of public health, self-help, and collaborative health. I would, however, suggest that intermediate intellectuals bridging knowledge, they are referring to individuals. So the connectors being individuals, persons, experts, or leaders, influencers. Communicative space, place, this notion is about opportunities, creating the opportunities to enhance communication. While my contribution would be to develop mechanisms. So one person, one opportunity, and I'm referring to mechanisms for connecting the different spheres, gluing different areas, and taking Kuroshio Town as an example, staff in charge system, or research teams methodology are actually the mechanisms through which that different parts, different fragmented parts of the community to bringing them together. So I would think if we could, the more we could develop these three, or there may be more that I'm not aware of, there must be more. The more we could develop these kind of approaches, the more chance we could develop integration, and we could actualize integration and effective integrated disaster risk reduction. So that's what I wanted to say. So that's the end of my talk. Thank you very much for your attention.